Hi, I'm Joel Butler with Butler Tree Farm and Florida Cool Ring Company. I'd like to take a moment to explain some advantages to you on the Florida Cool Ring that you don't find in a typical conventional container. And there's 5 aspects I'd like to point out to you, and I'd like to talk about, first of all, root manipulation. Then second, we'll cover temperatures of the root ball. Third would be the hydrology of the container. Then we'll take a look at soluble salts, and last, the tacking aspects of the container. Here we have a 30-gallon Tuscarora crepe myrtle grown in a Florida Cool Ring. When the ring is removed, you do not see a lot of root development on the outside of the root ball, which you would typically find in a crepe myrtle grown in a black plastic pot. That root mass is not on the outside of the root ball, but rather on the inside of the root ball. Now, the air pruning that takes place root manipulates the roots so that they become more fibrous. And what we've got here, as we remove that outer wall of potting soil, you can see right behind it is just thousands and thousands of small root hairs that are ready to become established in the landscape, which means this tree will establish faster in the landscape. But the important aspect I'd like to really point out is the placement of the roots that's totally different than any other container. Normally you will find most of the root mass on the outside of the root ball. For this container, you will find it on the inside of the root ball. Now, because of root placement, your temperatures on the root zone is much cooler on the internal part of the root ball. The temperatures are more extreme on the outside of the root ball in most containers, where you have temperatures that may reach as much as 130 degrees in the daytime and below freezing at night. But because of root placement in this container, you have an insulating effect on the outer wall, which protects the root system. Now also, in this container, when you water the container, the reservoir of your water retention is primarily in the center part of the container and not the outer walls. Again, that provides for more uniform wetting of the container, and that avoids the wet and dry cycle that you may find in other containers. What we have here is a podocarpus grown in a Florida Cool Ring. Notice the white crusting on the outside of the container wall. Again, this is your soluble salts moving out of the root zone and collecting on the external portion of the container. And again, this reduces your stress due to soluble salts on the root system, which should enhance growth and root development. Here I've got a Quercus virginiana, live oak, 3-inch caliper, 65-gallon container, Florida Cool Ring grown, and it's been chainsawed in half to show the root design. And as you can see, the majority of the roots are on the inside of the root ball again. This is more desirable for protection from heat or cold temperature extremes. It's also important because the reservoir water retention is on the inside of the root ball where the roots are, so that you get a more uniform wet-dry cycle during a 24-hour period of time. As you can see, there's hundreds or thousands of small effective roots. What I call effective in that they're effective in nutrient uptake and water uptake. And as this tree goes into the landscape, it will establish quicker than a tree that does not have this root manipulation. This tree does not have those wrapping roots that you may typically find in a conventional container. Now, what I would like to point out too is, I don't know if you can see, but on the top part of this root ball, you can see where these roots have been circling and wrapping. This is a result of being in a 3-gallon black plastic pot. and that programming, it keeps turning and turning. This is not desirable, and this is what the Florida cool ring avoids. I'm suggesting that you do root manipulation early on in oak trees to avoid this type of circling. But as you can see, as the roots get out into the cool ring, they are manipulated, and this circling, this programming is reduced or eliminated altogether. Now on the bottom, you can see the fabric that the container sits on. I want to point out you've got a few fine roots coming through here, and this is your tacking down that you get. You get more stability, less blowover. Again, you recover some of your lost nutrients through these roots. Also, you can pull up a little extra moisture out of the existing soil profile, and this gives you that little bit of a cushion where you can become a farmer 5 days a week rather than 7 days a week. And then when it comes time to remove the cloth, you can just take it off. And again, you can see this dense, fibrous root mat here that's going to make it a very desirable tree in the landscape. Lastly, I think what is very important to me, and it should be to most growers, is that it makes your operation more of a 5-day-a-week operation rather than a 7-day-a-week. You can take a weekend off and not have that concern about, well, did the irrigation system work? Because again, the way the hydrology works in this container, you have that cushion of 2 or 3 days where it's not necessary to continuously check on your plant material. So again, for me, I like the 5-day-a-week work schedule.